The number one quality of a leader is their ability to inspire people to take action. And in order to do that, you got to know how to press emotional buttons, pull emotional triggers, and you know how to. My ambition has always been to be as close to the fire as I possibly can. I want to be as close to the fire as I possibly can. The closer to the fire I am, the hotter I'll burn. And what you see a lot of times is you see people kind of isolate themselves and it doesn't serve them. It doesn't help them, right? The more immersed you are into an environment, the better off you're going to do. And, as much as we like to try to bring you into the environment, I want to challenge you guys. Don't be just the type of person that waits to be invited to the environment to get into it. Be the type of person that forges yourself into the environment so you can get access to mentorship, get access to leadership, get access to anything that's going to spark the fire in you. I did a training for some of our Canada EMDs 2 days ago, and they asked me to go over like 10 winning habits of someone that's in the base shop, right? I was like, that's a really, really good subject, right? So I went over 10 winning habits. One of the winning habits is they never miss a meeting. They never miss a meeting. They show up to everything. They figure out a way to be at everything. They never miss a call because when you're on a call, you're thinking about the business. When you leave a call, you're more likely to do something that grows the business because you were thinking about the business. So never miss a meeting. And I drove that point home because it is so important. I am a byproduct of never missing meetings. I don't care how inconvenient it was. I'm the byproduct of never missing meetings. I'll give you an example. I have in Iowa all week this week, okay? And I was supposed to be there from Wednesday to Thursday. And then all of a sudden, my coach calls the place, said, hey, I need you there Monday night. All right, perfect. Flight switched. And then I had a flight for Friday morning. And they said, hey, by the way, we're having a Friday morning meeting now. Okay, boom, flight switched. And those meetings cost me more money. Like those flights cost me more money and I had to change my flight and move things around. But guess what? I'm not missing a meeting because I am a byproduct of meetings. So if that means I got to change my schedule, if that means I got to change my calendar or whatever it is, if, all of a sudden we have a meeting like this, like we'll have a $13 term appointment on Friday morning. What does the tail wag the dog? Who's in control over your schedule? Okay. Don't let the tail wag the dog. You're in control over your schedule. You're in control over everything that you do. Why are you allowing a prospect to influence where you're getting your knowledge? You're thinking about one sale, not realizing that you're going to miss one nugget that could take you to a 7-figure income. We're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. Make sense? So be the type of person that shows up to everything. Be the type of person that never misses anything. Be the type of person that shows up to every single call as a student, trying to grow, trying to get better, trying to improve, showing up as a student. So I just want to challenge you to think that way and operate that way. Put yourself in environments where you're going to grow. Put yourself in environments where you're going to win. Figure out a way. Move your schedule around. If you get invited to something, don't shift everything. Figure it out. Just get there. Hell or high water. Get there and watch what that does for you throughout your entire career.
How do you draw a fine line between comparison and competition between your running mates or the people that you're, chasing after?
I don't think comparison is that bad. I know they always say comparison is the enemy of life or whatever, some ridiculous quote like that, right? I don't think comparison is that bad. I think you should be comparing yourself to other people. Not in a destructive way, but in a way that elevates your game. So I'm constantly comparing. I'm comparing my business versus other people's business. I'm comparing my sales process versus someone else's sales process. I'm comparing my numbers versus someone else's numbers. I'm comparing my life to someone else's life. And I'm looking at it as a tool and as an encouragement to get better. Because if I'm comparing my life to yours and your life is better than mine, well, what does that mean? That means that I have the opportunity to elevate my life because there's an example of someone doing it. So I look at comparison as an opportunity to elevate my game, not as a way to self-destruct and or self-discourage, which is, I think, what most people do. Most people look at comparison and they're like, oh my gosh, man, I'm not doing what they're doing. I'm right? And they blow themselves up. I'm looking at it as shoot, if they're doing it, that means I can do it. And what they're doing is better than what I'm doing. I need to do what they're doing. Make sense? Okay. So for instance, there's another hierarchy in the company. We're doing 13 million points more a year than their hierarchy. Okay. But I'm constantly comparing my processes to theirs because they have ratios that are better than mine. And so some of their ratios are better than mine. We're doing better, but some of their ratios are better than mine. So I'm comparing the way that they do things compared to the way I do things. And instead of justifying what I'm doing based off my volume being higher and my results being better, what I'm doing is I'm comparing and saying, okay, there's a process that they're doing that's better than my process, obviously. And so even though we might be doing more and we might be succeeding more, even though we've been in the company half the time or the industry half the time, that doesn't mean that there's not something incredible behind what it is that they're doing. Let me compare. Let me see what's a higher quality, and then I will adopt the higher quality to my process. So I don't think comparison is a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing when it's like a woe is me type of thing. But I think comparison is one of the things that helps you elevate. Don't avoid comparison. Compare all day long. But then use it to say, okay, I'm going to compare. And if you're better, that just means it's possible. And if it's possible, what are you doing to be better in that area? So I can adopt it, I can apply it, and I can better that area in my own life and business. If you don't compare, how do you know if something's better or not? You know what I mean? Like if I'm eating 2 cookies and I want to compare, which cookie do I like more? I got to look at both. I can't just look at my cookie and say, okay, I'm just going to only look at mine. What if their cookie tastes better? What if their recipe is better than mine? Does that mean I'm going to stop baking? No, I'm going to taste their cookie. I'm going to figure out their recipe. I'm going to build it into mine. And all of a sudden, moving forward, I can produce my own incredible cookies.
First question, what would you do differently to retain more and scale faster that you didn't know early on in your career? And question number 2, we all have, you as well, have had to rebuild, recruit, and then rebuild and rebuild. At this point for you in your hierarchy, there's no rebuilding for you. It's just continuing to grow. What was that shift? What had to happen for that to happen? So where you were no longer constantly rebuilding. Now it's just growing.
When I was first coming in business, I think it was more about being impressive and less about being impactful. Okay. Meaning I wanted to say all the right things. I wanted to come across this certain way. And it was more about being impressive than it was about being impactful. What do I mean? Today, one of the things, the way that I operate is I'm always thinking to myself, what do you need to hear to move forward? What do you need to hear in order to stay? Not what do I want you to hear, not what I like to hear, not what made me stay. I'm thinking always from the perspective of the person that I'm sitting down with. And I don't think most people do that. I think most people go into conversations, they go into meetings, and they constantly operate from their own perspective, their own reality, their own desires, their own goals, their own dreams. And what shifted for me is when I stopped thinking about myself in a conversation and I stopped thinking about myself in a meeting and I started thinking about the person and or the audience that was in front of me and what they were going to be the most receptive to and what was going to get them to stay and get them to move forward. That's when my results started changing. Because now I'm with a client or a prospect, potential client, and I'm thinking to myself, what would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to have confidence in me? Let me say that. What would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to have confidence in the product? Let me say that. What would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to have confidence in the company? Let me say that. What would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to want to move forward with this? Let me say that. So I'm always positioning it from what would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to move forward. Okay. The way that's helped me is because now I'm doing that in the system. If I'm taking, it's not just closing a deal. It's not just growing my agency. It's also in the way that I move somebody through the system. What would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to want to become a client of the firm as an agent? What do I need to hear if I was in their shoes to want to build a list and want to build an agency? What would I need to hear if I was in their shoes to want to set up 10 training appointments? And so we have systems in place that kind of help with that. But the problem is that the system isn't listening to what it is that they're saying. The system isn't paying attention to their body language. That's where the human interaction comes in. That's why having a trainer is so important, because the trainer's job is to pick up on their energy. The trainer's job is to pick up on what they're saying. The trainer's job is to pick up on their body language and see, okay, they just became a little bit uncomfortable. Their body language shifted a little bit. Their energy shifted a little bit. There's something they're uncomfortable with right now. I need to say something that's going to help overcome this level of uncomfort, or else they're going to be out of the business here pretty soon. So it's about being intentional about the understanding of the person in front of you. It's called sensory acuity, which is your ability to read the room. Sensory acuity, your ability to read the room, to read the energy, to read the conversation, and then adjust as needed in order to retain and or mobilize the person to where you want them to be. That's a big deal. And that's just a deep understanding of human nature and emotional intelligence. When that elevated for me, right? And now I'm on a call and I'll have a paradigm shift in the way I'm delivering a message based off the body language or based off a couple people on the screen. I'll adjust real quick. I'll go left, I'll go right, I'll duck, you know what I mean? Like whatever I got to do, I'm adjusting based off the person I'm sitting down with. So that's the first part of it. Okay. That's one of the things that led me to not having to rebuild teams, because now I'm not in this constant flow of pushing people out of the business, because I'm saying everything that's required to keep them in the business. So like, for instance, I'm talking 2 weeks ago, I talked about growing your agency, right, Don, on Monday. And what did I do? I normalized growing your agency for about 20 minutes. So I normalized it. I was overcoming the objection of every person in the room that thinks recruiting is weird. So if I overcome that objection, they no longer think it's weird. Now they're okay with it. They become okay with it. They're willing to execute upon it. Make sense? So in our business, there's kind of the same objections that people have. Like on the client, there's the same doubtful objections that they're thinking. On the recruiting side, there's the same doubtful objections of what an agent is thinking on whether or not they feel comfortable and or don't comfortable setting up appointments in their own market or doing field training appointments or doing recruiting interviews. It's kind of the same thoughts. So if I know what those thoughts are, now I can say the right things, do the right things in order to overcome those things and get them to do what I need them to do. So that's one of the things that elevated it. And it went from just being able to do it on a one-on-one basis to being able to do that on a training call basis, on a meeting. Make sense? Like, for instance, I used to get intense about things and like call people out and yada, 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 because I saw leadership do that. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And then I realized that the people that were quote unquote leaders were constantly having to rebuild their team because they had zero sensory acuity and they had no idea how to read the room. So now when I get intense about things that people can't get pissed off about. If I'm going to get intense, I'm going to get intense about things that you can't get mad about. If I'm talking about licensing, I'm going to get intense about not profiting because you get a license. I'm going to get intense about making sure we don't steal $199 from people. Okay? I'm going to get intense about stepping up as a man and being a good dad and being a good husband. I'm going to be intense about being an incredible mom. Things that you can't fight, becoming a better human being, operating with more integrity, right? Like doing things the right way. You can't fight me on that. There's not a single person that can be on that call and be like, you know what? He's wrong for talking about doing the right thing. Make sense? If I do get intense about things that nobody can be upset with, does that make sense? Right? So my ability to read the room is what's led to our organization growing. Right? But then also kind of knowing how to read the room, this is a great question. Knowing how to read the room also allows you to know how to move the room, because you can't move a room that you haven't read yet. Okay? So if I'm on a Zoom call or I'm in a meeting, if I can read the room and I can read the body language and I understand human nature at a deep level, I can now press the buttons and pull the triggers that's going to get the people on that call to want to take action. But if I haven't read the room, then I don't know which trigger to pull and I don't know which button to push in order to move the needle. Make sense? The good news is once you identify these triggers, once you identify these emotional buttons, now all of a sudden it becomes very easy to get people to move. The number one quality of a leader is their ability to move people. I know it's integrity. I know it's all these things. There's like 40 number one qualities, but the number one quality of a leader is their ability to inspire people to take action. And in order to do that, you got to know how to press emotional buttons, pull emotional triggers, and you need to know how to inspire action.
As you were starting out as a developing leader, how did you create momentum in your team? When people are, staying stagnant, how did you kind of give them that push to get results?
I didn't push them. I went and got personal results and then they followed suit. The way you increase momentum in an organization is not by getting them to go do things. It's about you going and doing things either for them to spark their momentum, and or it's you going and do things on your own personal pen that then waterfalls over into your organization. Guys, we got to realize that the leader waterfalls into their organization. So if you're not driving momentum through your own personal results, then your team is not going to have momentum. Think about a champagne tower. When you look at a champagne tower, there's that top glass. What happens when you stop filling up the top glass? The other glasses stop being filled up as well. Make sense? So if you're lacking momentum in your team, in your organization, it's because you are not religiously and relentlessly filling up your glass that then waterfalls into all the other glasses. So a lack of momentum in an organization 100% stems from the leader, their thoughts, what they're talking about, and the actions that they are taking. I'm always thinking to myself, like one of the things I'm talking to our EMDs about today on our EMD meeting is momentum. It's one of the things that I'm talking about because we point the ship. Whatever we talk about, people will move towards. So if I'm talking about momentum, people will think we have momentum. And if people think we have momentum, they'll take actions that actually create the momentum. There are a lot of times where we don't actually have momentum. Like there are a lot of times where we don't actually have momentum. But what I'll do is I'll get up on a call and I'll say, we have more momentum than ever before. We're helping so many families. So many people are getting promoted. More people are making money right now than ever before. Momentum is hot and momentum is here to stay. Oh my goodness. Let me ask you a question. What are you doing to add to the momentum? If everyone has momentum, the question is, do you? If not, immerse yourself into the environment and let the momentum, and I'm going to make people feel and think that there's momentum going on, because if they feel there's momentum going on and if they think momentum is going on, then guess what? They will take actions that actually lead to momentum. So I know that. So do you know the worst thing that you can ever do on a meeting? Guys, we're down, we're behind. Here's the deal. There is a place for it every once in a while. There is a place for it every once in a while, but it can't be an all the time thing. It's got to be like once every 6 months, you pull that out of your box of tricks in order to move people. Make sense? So once every 6 months, we'll be like, hey, we're behind. We got to step up. And it's like an underdog rallying the troops conversation. But if I do that too often, then what's going to happen is everyone's going to feel like I'm a part of a losing team. We're always behind. We never have any momentum. And that's not good. So I will pull that out of my box of tricks every once in a while to rally the troops. But I'm not having that as a consistent conversation. My consistent conversation is everything's great. Momentum is hot. We're helping families like never before. More people making money. More people getting promoted. Lives are being changed. Things are moving in an incredible direction. Get on this movement with us because the movement and the momentum is hot. And now everyone thinks that. And once again, when they think that, they move towards it. Remember, a leader controls what their people think about by what they say. If I say blue, what color are you thinking about? If I say orange, what color are you thinking about? If I say boat, truck, organ, whatever I say, you think about. That means that as a leader, I control what my people think about by what it is that I consistently say. So if I am consistent in my message, then I can consistently control the thoughts of my people. And if I can control their thoughts, I can control their decision making. Decisions lead to actions. Actions lead to results. So if I'm trying to improve something, better something, and or enhance something in my organization, if I consistently talk about it, you're consistently thinking about it, which means you're consistently making decisions that are going to move us towards it happening.
For someone who's looking to grow their identity, what part of the business do you believe that people find the most growth in their identity? Is it in cash flow? Is it when their recruiting numbers are big? What do you believe that they find the most identity growth in the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think their biggest identity growth definitely comes from cash flow. And that's not necessarily because it's the answer. It's just because it's the world that we live in. And so because we live in a world that is kind of conditioned that into our human nature and into our belief system, people tie money to identity, even though it's not the only place. Like, think about it. You have an identity in your health. You have an identity in your marriage. You have an identity in the relationship with your children. You have an identity in your faith. You have an identity in your financial situation. And so I think sometimes people think, oh, identity is just on income. No, right? I have an identity when it comes to my marriage. My standard of excellence for my marriage has an identity. If I have a low identity in my marriage, meaning the identity of what I think is okay in my marriage is low, then I'm going to have a struggling marriage. But if I have a high identity in my marriage, meaning the standard of excellence for my marriage is high, then I'm going to have a thriving marriage. Make sense? And we have that in every area of our life, the way we parent, the way we walk in our faith, in our health, in our financial situation, in our direct recruiting, in our personal sales, in the size of our attendance on our base shop calls. Like everything has an identity to it. Now it's what is your identity in that area? Make sense? Like there's people on this call that have a high direct recruiting identity, but they have a low personal production identity, right? It's just the reality. We have people on this call that have a high personal production identity, or I wouldn't say high, because none of you have a high personal production identity, but you have a better personal production identity, but you have a low direct recruiting identity. So there's identities that are tied to every area of our life. Make sense? But I think one of the ones that will shift the fastest is your income. I mean, it just kind of depends on your belief system. Like if you believe that recruiting leads to production, production leads to cash flow, like if you genuinely believe that in your heart, then if you have high recruiting, you're going to believe that you're going to be richer than everyone else one day because your recruiting's dialed in. There's going to be that belief system there, right? But at the end of the day, until you make the money, you're still going to doubt it. And so you have to make the money to no longer doubt it. I remember meeting with Jack when Jack was in my base, and I was like, brother, just get over 10K one time. Get over 10,000 one time. Do everything you possibly can. Work your butt off, long hours. Just get over 10K one time. Because if you get over it once, you're going to know the rest of your entire career, you can do it again and again and again. Now, me and him had a conversation the other day, and it was about getting over 50K in a month one time. Why? Because he's already blown past the 10. So now the conversation is, hey, can you just get over 50K in a month one time? Because if you can get over it one time, you now know it's possible. If you know it's possible, that's what you're going to be working towards now every single month. I said, just get over 50K in 1 month, one time, and watch the way your identity begins to shift. And so that's what he's aggressively focused on right now. Can I just get over it one time? And then what you do is you audit the actions. You say, okay, these are the actions that led to me getting over that income milestone. I'm going to do more of the actions that led to the income, and I'm going to do less of the actions that didn't lead to the income. So it's like, what are the profit generating activities? What are the activities that I did that didn't really move the needle? Let's eliminate the activities that didn't move the needle. Let's double down and double down and double down on the activities that did move the needle. And then if you do that, now you're going to double your cash flow. Make sense? Like if I make 10K and then I audit the actions that I took to make 10K. Okay, these are the actions that led to the 10K. I'm going to do more of that. These are the actions that wasted my time that didn't lead to the 10K. I'm going to do less of that. Now all of a sudden going into the next month, because you audited your behavior, you now make 20K. And then you do the exact same thing. What actions led to the 20K? And then what actions didn't lead to the 20K? Let's eliminate the actions that didn't lead to the 20K. Let's double down on the actions that led to the 20K, and let's do more of that. And you can do this up until a certain point. Now it becomes, can I help my people audit their actions? Because there's only so much personal income that you can earn on your own. You have to start being able to transfer that ability into your people. And then that's how you start to be able to scale your passive income as well.
My question, it's really easy to be fired up, recruit big numbers, motivate people, duplicate, do all those things when you're making big money, everything's going good. I know there was a point in your career where not everything was going good and there was some things income-wise that were out of your control, but you still built your business and it actually exploded during that time frame from your story from Franco. I guess, what are some things that one can lean into, maybe some books they can read, or some mindset, so whether or not your income's doing well, still have a great attitude, build your team, build your business,
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the reason we were able to get through hard times is because my income didn't determine my identity. I knew my identity was going to determine my income. So let me explain. If your income determined your identity, then nobody would ever elevate their income. But the fact that we can elevate our own identity means that we can elevate our income. So I knew that my circumstances was a location, it wasn't the destination. And so because I knew that my circumstances was a location and not the destination, I knew that at any moment I can move myself from my current location to a brand new one. And so when the going got tough, instead of sitting in it, I got going to move myself into a better location or a better destination based off this analogy. Okay. So I didn't sit in it. And so that was part one. Part two of it is I kept my eye on the prize and it gave purpose to everything that I was going through. Okay. So if you're going through a hard time, you have to focus on the future while executing in the present. You got to focus on how amazing things are going to be while you're working through the tough time that you are currently in. And so I always tell people, focus on the future, but execute in the present, right? Be thinking about your dream while doing what needs to be done today. Okay. And that's one of the things that like kept me excited through those moments, because it was that. Part 3 of it was I reminded myself that that's what was going to make this story so much more worth watching. So like, for instance, I have this movie going on in my life, and I'm constantly thinking, okay, this is going to make the movie a bestseller. This right here is going to make the movie a bestseller. And if everyone's going to be watching this scene one day, how do I want the scene to look? If I know everyone is going to be watching this scene, at one point, everyone's watching the scene. Do I want them to be like, I can't believe he came back from that, and he did, and it was inspiring, and it was incredible? Or it was, he didn't handle that very well. He cowered it down. He gave up. Make sense? So because I almost see my life as a movie, I'm looking at every moment as a scene. And because I'm looking at every moment as a scene, I'm trying to make it a scene worth watching. And that's in the good times and the bad times. Like, how am I going to respond to this scene? Okay. Part 4 of this is your character is not defined in moments of great times. Your character gets defined in moments of bad times. And it's what we do when everything goes wrong that truly determines our character and our identity. And so, like I said, I don't allow our circumstances to affect my identity, because I know my identity will get me out of the circumstances. Say, okay, this is a situation. This is what we got to do to get out of it. That's it. All right. That's it. And then lastly, that I would say is, I know I'm going somewhere. And so even in the moments of hard times, the reason I didn't have a problem selling my people the dream and doing what I needed to do is because I knew I was going to end up successful. That's it. Because I wasn't willing to not. You know what I mean? It was either I was going to become successful or I'm going to die. Like it's really it. Like there was no gray area. It's like either I make it or I'm going to die trying to make it. And so when I was with people, I didn't mind selling this dream of where we were going, because of the fact is I might not be in a good spot right now, but I know for a fact I'm going to be in a good spot, because I'm either going to get there or I'm going to die trying. There is no gray area. There's no other option. We're getting there. No ifs, ands, or buts. And that gave me the ability to continue to cast that vision for people. I didn't look at where we were at. I looked at where we were going.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'd love to ask you, as being in a corporate environment, I'm there 8 hours a day, full time still, and looking to really tap in and connect with individuals. And I like to get feedback and insight on how you would recommend doing so, whether that be something additional to them, working with us, or on the financial side, and even getting in front of VPs and directors that are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things that I would say. Number 1, always remember that being part-time here is a state of mind. Okay. Mm-hmm. I can have a part-time schedule, but a full-time mindset. And it's that full-time mindset that's going to make me full-time income here. I've had a lot of people in our organization that were part-time because they're active duty serving our country, but they were full-time mentally. And so they're making 150 to 300 grand a year part-time while active duty serving our country, simply because of the fact that they were full-time mentally, even though the hours available in a day were part-time. Make sense? So always remember, obsessed people attract all the timers attract full-timers attract part-timers attract spare timers attract nobody. So based off your all-in mindset, that will determine how all-in your people are and or the type of people that you attract into your organization. That's part 1. Part 2, it's going to be very, very difficult to try to mobilize anyone at your work into the business until they see you commit to the business. Because right now they're thinking, well, Erica, if it's really that good, how come you're still part-time? Erica, if it's really that good, how come you're not all in there? Erica, if it's really that good, why are you still doing this? And that's what every single person there is thinking. And so the moment you leave is going to be the moment where it becomes easy to recruit them and go back and help them. while you are still working there, it's going to be very difficult because it actually makes things a little bit more skeptical while you're there. I would be skeptical if you were like, well, if it's a legit this, a legit that, and a legit this, how come you're still with us then? I would become skeptical of you. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with maybe talking to one of your coworkers and be like, hey, guess what? You know, I'm in the process of transitioning into the financial industry. I made an extra couple $1,000s last month part-time on 2 appointments, 2 hours worth of work. It's pretty awesome. I think you could do really well there. Let me introduce you to somebody. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you're, you know, I would definitely do that, right? Where you make more money on your part-time thing than your full-time thing. And when you make more money on your part-time thing than your full-time thing, then you can eventually make your part-time thing your full-time thing, and then you make even more money. See where I'm going? But that's kind of the way that I would try to transition people. But they got to see you commit. All right. What an amazing Q&A today. I thought today was really, really good. Filled with a lot of value and a lot of substance. Great questions. And my challenge to all of you would be, let's finish strong. Let's finish strong. We do that? Yes, yes? Awesome. All right, guys. Love you all. God bless you and your families. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Let's get it. 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 Let's get it.